Today we are going to travel down memory lane, and specifically to the early 2000s to the 2010s, and we are going to compare football clubs from the past and how they compare with present day football clubs. During the early 2000s, late to around the 2010s, there were very incredible football clubs. We had Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, and Liverpool, and we also had other teams that finished just slightly past the top four. That is Everton, Tottenham Football Club, Tottenham Hotspur, and Aston Villa. And in today's video, we're going to compare what has changed over these few years, and what important lessons can we learn from these football clubs from the past. And remember that the Arsenal Football Club, they went the whole season unbeaten, that is 49 games. They won the Premier League in the 2000, the season 2001, 2002, and 03 and 04, while Man United won the Premier League titles three times in a row from 1999 to 2001, and four times, and they won it two times, 1999 to 2001, and 2007 to 2009, and four times in a row in 2011, 2014, and in 2000 in the year 2008, Man United were able to defeat Chelsea in the Champions League final and win a Champions League title. We also had Chelsea. Chelsea had they had won their title in 1955, and then came Roman Abramovich, and after 50 years without a title, Chelsea were able to win their first title in the year 2005, and they repeated the same in the year 2006 and 2010. And most of those players that were in that team won the Champions League in the year 2012 against German giants Bayern Munich. We also had Liverpool. Liverpool, so many can remember their final against AC Milan in the year 2005. They came back from a 3-0 they came back from 3-0 to eventually drawing, and finally winning the Champions League on penalties. And other than that, Liverpool also won the FA in the years 2001, the FA Cup in the year 2001 and 2006. And these teams were incredible. The atmosphere was just electric, and we had very many phenomenal talents that were around that were able to achieve remarkable feats, and some had even set records that are yet to be broken today. So today we're going to draw some important lessons from these teams from the past and what it takes to become a Premier League champion. And the first thing that you need to become a Premier League title is that you need a world-class goalkeeper between the sticks. And Premier League goalkeepers really save football clubs a number of points. And I remember very well two great goalkeepers who, if it were not for them, I know that these clubs will not have won the titles. And these goalkeepers are Edwin van der Sar of Manchester United and Peter Cech of Chelsea. And I know that these two goalkeepers really saved their football clubs quite a number of points in the seasons that they won the titles. And if you want to become a Premier League title, the first thing that you need is that you need a world-class goalkeeper. Goalkeepers, there are games in which I felt like if it weren't for the goalkeepers, then there would have been a very different scoreline. And this is the first point that you need. You need a world-class goalkeeper. World-class goalkeepers usually save football clubs several points in a season by either preventing losses. There are times when it's only the goalie that has really prevented a football club from losing, and by either maintaining a draw, and usually a draw, usually 1 point, which at times can be very crucial. Now the next point on if you want to become a Premier League title, if you want to win a title in the Premier League, is that you need a mean defense that concedes little or no goals, and that the defense is usually the backbone of the team. And there's a popular saying that the defense wins you the title, while the forward wins you games, maybe one games. But and that is the importance of building your football clubs with great defenders. You need great defenders if you are to win a football, if you are to win a title. The defense usually works as the backbone of the team, and that it is very important to build from the back. The foundation that you lay will determine the foundation that you lay will determine how strong this building is going to maintain. And that is why it is important to have a mean defense. Now in the defense we usually have the fullbacks, the right fullback and the left back, the right back and the left back. These are the fullbacks, and fullbacks usually face wingers, and most wingers are usually tricky players with so many skills. They very good on the ball, the dribbles, they're fast, they're quick feet. And for your fullback, you need your fullback to be good on one-on-one. Fullbacks are also tasked with the role of defending and attacking at the same time. They're supposed to defend and also overlap and go and send in crosses to the box. And on center backs, in the past, most managers preferred working with big center backs. I remember during the early 2000s, most of these defenders were giants. They were very big, but they were not only very big, but they really understood their football, and that they worked as a unit. And this is the reason why they were and this is the reason why most teams won the titles, because they had a solid defense line. And usually center backs are usually a threat from set pieces. When you're taking corners or free kicks, there are times when the fullbacks they have to go to the penalty area, and most center backs usually score from headers because they are big, and the defender needs to be brave. Remember that defending is such a heroic task, and you need your defenders to be brave, and that this is one of the reasons why so many of these teams were able to win very many points. And usually the center backs deal with aerial threats and scoring goals from set pieces, as I have said. And that we had center backs. We have two center backs, and I think that these two center backs usually play different role. Remember that you usually have someone like a stopper and a sweeper, and that if they can find a way of building this right partnership, then you're going to win titles. And I remember back then some of the backlines that existed back then. I remember the Arsenal winning side. It had Lauren, Kolo Toure, Sol Campbell, and Ashley Cole. And this backline was quite solid, as it helped the Arsenal Football Clubs to go the whole season unbeaten. We also had Laurent Koscielny, who came on late, I think in the around 2010s, when football had changed slightly bit. And Koscielny was not that big, but he was solid defensively. Man United had Neville and Wes Brown, and later Nemanja Vidic, and together with Rio Ferdinand and Gabriel Heinze and Evra as well. And these sides were able to win so many titles because they had such a solid defense that really understood each other. They really understood what it meant to defend. And Chelsea had Bosingwa, Cavallo, who played with Terry, and Gallas at left back, and later Ashley Cole when he moved from Arsenal to Chelsea. We also had Ivanovic at right back and Cahill, who also played alongside, who also played in the Chelsea football team. So it is important to understand your role and that you should also work as a team. We also had other incredible fullbacks, right backs. We had Bakary Sagna of Arsenal and Zabaleta of Manchester City, and I thought that during their times, I thought that they were they were one of the best centre backs. They are one of the best right backs to ever play in the league. Now to the midfield. The midfield is usually the engine of the team, and that the midfield usually helps you to possess the ball. Most midfielders are good on the ball, and that we have different roles. We had different roles in midfield, and that today we are having a look at how this football club in the past compare with football club in the present. And these defensive midfielders of the past were usually big. The managers usually preferred, in certain areas, managers usually preferred big players such as centre backs and the middle of the park, and sometimes at the centre forward. And these defensive midfielders in the past, most of them, as I can remember, they were no nonsense, tough tackling, they were clever, they had positional discipline. Remember that this is usually the fulcrum of the team, and their job was usually to shield the back line. These defensive midfielders made very limited forward movements. They were hardworking. They were expected to run a lot, and sometimes they found themselves covering at centre back. Sometimes when the pressure was too much, these defensive midfielders found themselves covering at centre back. And some of the defensive midfielders during their time were Gilberto Silva of Arsenal. We had Roy Keane of Manchester United. Xabi Alonso, who could play the DM as well as central midfielder. Claude Makelele, then Michael Essien, John Obi Mikel, and Michael Carrick of Manchester United. And these were defensive midfielders of their time. And that time football was very physical, and for you to excel in the league, you really need to sign these defensive midfielders that had all these attributes. Now to the central midfielder, or to the box midfielder. The box midfielder usually has the task of defending and attacking as well. And usually his task is to carry the ball forward, and that in the past they preferred somebody who had long legs, somebody that can cover a lot of distance, possessing the ball, good on the ball, passing, shooting, tackling, and breaking down opposition play. And that just some of the players to excel in this role are Patrick Vieira of Arsenal. And Patrick Vieira, when he left Arsenal has never won the league ever since Patrick Vieira left the club. And that we had Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes was known for his long distance passing and his shooting. He had very hard shots. We had Frank Lampard of Chelsea, who scored very many goals. And we also had Yaya Toure of Manchester United. Manchester City, Yaya Toure moved from Barcelona in Spain to Manchester City in England. And at first he played in different roles, but he's also one of the best central midfielders to play in the league. Now we also had the attacking midfielder. Attacking midfielders are usually tasked with adding creativity to the midfield, and their main job is to feed the forward line, the wingers, and the central and the center forward. Usually they must play through balls and together with the midfield too, they are supposed to help possess the ball, and that they usually given a freedom to roam around the pitch, and that we had so many we had some of the best attacking midfielders at the time. We had Gerrard, who scored lots of goals, and he was one of the main guy behind Liverpool's success. We had Cesc Fabregas that ran the show at Arsenal for quite a number of years. We had David Silva of Manchester City, Juan Mata. Recently, Arsenal just had Santi Cazorla, and in other leagues we had Iniesta, we had Riquelme of Villarreal, and we can also remember Christian Eriksen in the Premier League. I thought that is also one of the best attacking midfielders. And playing the midfield, in order for you to excel, you just need to know your role. Remember that we have two players. We have the defensive midfielder, the central midfielder, and the attacking midfielder. And these three players have different roles. And in order for your team to excel, every player needs to know their role in that middle of the park. Then we had wingers. Wingers are usually good at dribbling. They're fast, quick feet, footworks. And in the past, we had right-footed players playing on the right side of the pitch and left-footed players on the left side of the pitch, because the main role at that time was to send in perfect crosses into the box. But as time went by, they swapped these roles. We had the right winger playing on the left and the left playing on the right, because they are expected to score goals. They're expected to maybe cut in from the inside and score goals. And this job of sending crosses to the box was left to the overlapping fullback. And just some of the best wingers, I think, from the past, Robert Pires of Arsenal. We had Cristiano Ronaldo of Manchester United. Ian Robben also played in the Premier League for Chelsea Football Clubs. Bloomberg of Arsenal. Ryan Giggs, he has played for quite a number of years. He had Joe Cole of Chelsea and John Andrisse of Liverpool. Now, moving on to the striker. In order to win the title, you need a top-class striker. And there is usually this term in the football industry, 20-goal a season striker. It's like 20 goals is usually the standard that they are expected to meet, and the job of the striker is just usually to put the ball in the back of the net and score plenty of goals, and that pressure the defense. They're supposed to latch on to through balls and score goals, shield the ball, invite others into play, and for you to win a title, you need a top-class striker in your team. And some of the best Premier League strikers to ever play the game are Thierry Henry of Arsenal Football Club. I know that he was one of the best players. I think that he is one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League. We had Didier Drogba of Chelsea, who really punished Arsenal with so many goals, and I think that is also one of the best strikers in the league. We had Fernando Torres of Liverpool, later switched to Chelsea, then moved to La Liga side Atletico Madrid. Then we had Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez was also quite brilliant as a striker. He was not big, but he was fast, he was tricky, and he knew how to find the back of the net. And we also had Wayne Rooney of Manchester United, who broke into the team at such a young age and caused plenty of trouble to the back line. And he also scored very many goals. Now, in the striker position, in the past we had a number 10. A number 10 usually used to play slightly behind the main striker. He could drop deep, collect the ball, then link up with the main striker. But football has evolved, and this number 10 role was changed. Most managers preferred having numbers in the middle of the pitch, and this is why the role of the attacking midfielder was came into play. And most teams nowadays don't play with this number 10. In the past, we had the 4-4-2 formation, four defenders, four midfielders, and two strikers. This was a formation that was very popular at that time, but as time went by, tactics changed, and they had to play with. And most managers thought that having numbers in the middle of the pitch would really go a long way in helping the team win the football matches, and that is why they introduced the attacking midfielder, usually a midfielder that plays just right behind the main strikers. We also had some other good strikers in the league. I cannot fail to mention Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp scored such beautiful goals during his time, and he's also one of the Premier League legends. We also had Ruud van Nistelrooy of Manchester United and Hernan Crespo of Chelsea. So in the other players from other leagues, most of our time, most when we were young, most of us spent most of our time watching the English Premier League, and maybe we only had the chance to watch other leagues, maybe during the Champions League, this other big tournament, during the Champions League, and other big tournaments such as the World Cup and the Euros. And I cannot fail to mention these other players who were really brilliant. We had the Ronaldo of the Brazil. He played for Real Madrid in Spain and the Brazil national team, and he's also one of the best strikers to ever play the game, the best if not the best. We had Zlatan as well, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who scored very many goals, and he's still playing football. And we had Gattuso. When most people think of a defensive midfielder, the first name that comes to their mind is Gennaro Gattuso. He was wild, and as I've said, this role of the defensive midfielder was usually left to somebody who was tough, and Gattuso he's a very well known DM because he had all those attributes. We had Nesta and Maldini of AC Milan. We had Pirlo as well, and we can also fail to mention Zinedine Zidane. He played for the Real Madrid side, and Roberto Carlos, who was a fullback and for Madrid, and also played for the Brazilian national team. We had Cafu, and most people, and Dani Alves of Barcelona. Dani Alves, when most people think of a right back, Dani Alves is one of the names that comes to their mind. Then you have Casillas, a goalkeeper from Real Madrid. We also had Xavi and Iniesta, who were very successful footballers, and Busquets, Piqué, Ramos, Samuel Eto'o from Africa. He's also one of the best strikers. We also had Ronaldinho Gaucho. Ronaldinho Gaucho was a winger who was full of football skills, so many footworks, and really excelled as a football player. And Luis Figo of the Portugal national team. We also had Lucio. I thought that Lucio was quite a solid centre back. Played for Inter Milan and the Brazilian national team. Now, how has football changed over the years? Remember that you are trying to compare football from the past with football in the present, and that at first it is not as physical as it used to be. Remember that in the past most of these players were big, and that sometimes without having these big players in your team, you could really suffer, because that is how the game was during that time. And also the rivalry seems to have toned down. Remember, we had Arsenal and Man United, and this rivalry was intense. And at the moment, I think it has sort of toned down. We had so much rivalry: Man United and Arsenal, Liverpool and Man United, Chelsea, and against these big four teams. So just a summary of what it takes to win the league. The first one is that you need a top class goalie, you need a mean defense, you need midfielders who understand their role, and a world class strikers to score plenty of goals. Other important lessons from these football clubs in the past is that you need to get your maths right. Remember that you need to prepare well. It's a journey, it's a long journey, and that you need squad depth. You need certain players to come in for certain players because it's a journey, and in this journey, fatigue will come in. There may be certain injuries and other uncertainties, and that you need to prepare well before the season starts, and that you need to be aggressive. I don't think that softies really win the league, so you need to be aggressive and you need to have a strong mentality. Some of these teams that won the titles, they had to bounce back from losses maybe in the previous matches. Yeah, some of these teams maybe lost, and that they had to bounce back from losses, and that they also had to come back from behind in certain games and win football matches. And that in order to do this, you need a strong mentality. You need leaders in your team, that will encourage, that will motivate players to to see out a win in a match. So I also just like to say that most of these tactics have changed and some might not apply today, and so that it is important for you to choose wisely what you want to apply and what you don't, choose wisely what you want to add to your team and what you don't want to bring to your team. And lastly, I think you also need individual brilliance, and I've taken my time to mention it as I am almost finishing this presentation, because I love to encourage team play more than individual brilliance. But there are times when you need a player to step up and win for you football matches. We had players that have won so many matches for their team. I know Cristiano Ronaldo of Manchester United, and and Thierry Henry of Arsenal, Steven Gerrard, Lionel Messi. I feel like at times, if these teams didn't have these players on their side, then they might not have won some of these matches. And just to add some more, football is how you understand it. I know that football has changed. That in the past it was very physical, in the present times, football has really changed, and it is more of how you understand it. And it is more of how you understand it. And that we have had so many other players who have succeeded without these attributes. We have Javi, Busquets, and the Spanish team that won the Euros in the 2008 and the World Cup in 2010. We had other players such as Andrea Pirlo, AC Milan, and Juventus. Suarez was a centre forward for Liverpool and Barcelona. Laurent Koscielny was not that big at Arsenal. Remember, centre backs were big, but he was not that big, but he was solid defensively. This is just to mention but a few. That football is usually, it is how you understand it. Football is basically how you understand it, and that it's not really necessary to have all these attributes. So that is some of the important lessons that present day clubs can learn from these clubs from the early 2000s. And I know that if they are to really consider some of these tactics, then I know that they really spice up their team and that they will be able to they'll be able to win football titles, and that they might also set records that other teams might struggle to break. Now, I just want to thank everyone for watching this YouTube video. I just want to encourage everyone to like, subscribe, leave a comment, click on the bell icon so that you get a notification every time I post a new video, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.